Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's been gaining serious traction among parents of college students, and that's buying investment properties for your student to live in while they're attending school. Now, specifically, we're going to look at why Blacksburg, Virginia, which is home to Virginia Tech, is one of the best places to do just that. So if you're a parent of a current or future Hokie, stick around. We'll walk through real numbers for home prices, rental income, expenses, and appreciation. We'll talk strategy and equity and how this move could set both you and your student up for financial success. As always, my name is Grant Irby, your trusted real estate resource here in Blacksburg and the New River Valley. And our goal with this YouTube channel is that it's your #1 resource for all the things that you need to know about relocating to and living in this area. And please, if you find this information helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, if you are thinking about making a move to the area, I would love to be the realtor that you choose to work with. So let's start with the big picture. Why even consider buying instead of renting? Blacksburg has a consistently strong rental market, and that's driven by the thousands of students who attend Virginia Tech each and every year. Housing demand is steady, and availability near campus is often pretty tight. So instead of spending 4 years paying rent to a landlord, which is often upwards of $40,000, many parents are choosing to invest that money into real estate, which enables them to build equity while their child is in school. Now let's look at the numbers. As of early 2025, the average home value in Blacksburg is around $396,000. Now, this does include a mixture of single-family homes, townhomes, and condos. So if we narrow it down specifically to condos and townhomes that are near campus, which is ideal properties for your students, they're likely looking at a purchase price somewhere between $250,000 and $350,000. And that's depending on location, size, and condition of the unit. So let's use $300,000 as a middle-of-the-road example for our scenario. That's a reasonable estimate for a 2 or more likely a 3-bedroom unit within a couple of miles of Virginia Tech. Next, the rental market. Blacksburg's rental rates are healthy. A typical 2-bedroom unit in town rents for about $1,500 to $1,800 per month, while a 3-bedroom unit can bring $2,200 and often more. Rent per room near campus usually ranges from $700 to $850, depending on the amenities and proximity to Virginia Tech. These numbers are consistent because the student population renews each and every year. So let's do some quick math. Let's say, for example's sake, you buy a $300,000 condo and your student lives in 1 room and you rent out the remaining 2 rooms to other students. If you're renting out the 2 rooms at $800 each, that's $1,600 a month in rental income. Now, that money can go towards covering your mortgage and other expenses. And in many cases, this setup brings the net monthly cost to below what you'd be paying in rent anyway, while also gaining an appreciating asset. So speaking of appreciation, let's talk about that next. Over the past decade, Blacksburg real estate has shown very steady growth. In just the last year, overall home values have increased by 2.3%. Now, while 2.3% might not sound very glamorous, real estate is the long game. And that kind of consistent appreciation year after year after year, while combined with rental income and equity buildup from paying down that mortgage every month, that can add up significantly over a 4 to 6 year time frame, and especially more so if your student pursues graduate studies. Now, let's break down the monthly expenses you would likely incur with this type of investment. We'll stick with that $300,000 purchase price, and let's assume you put down 20%. That's $60,000, and that leaves $240,000 on a mortgage. Now, interest rates aren't glamorous right now, and you can always refinance later and capture a lower interest rate for the life of the loan, But for the sake of today's example, let's use a 6.5% interest rate on the 30-year fixed mortgage. That would put your principal and interest payment at about $1,515 per month. And quick but important note here, that's before accounting for any additional negotiation strategies, like negotiating the seller to buy down your interest rate for you. Now, I love that strategy and we can talk more about that in a later video. But for now, property taxes. The town of Blacksburg and Montgomery County, the combined tax rates is relatively affordable. It's about $1.01 per $100 of assessed value. And the assessed value is often considerably less than the actual market value. So, I've done the math. For this example, we would estimate about $2,500 annually. That's about $210 per month. Then there's insurance. Homeowners insurance for a condo typically costs around $75 a month. And let's add another $150 or so for HOA fees if you're buying a condo or a townhome with shared amenities and services. So finally, budgeting for maintenance, maybe you would keep about $100 to $150 back per month in reserves, depending on the property's condition and age. And adding all that up, you're approximately looking at $1,515 for mortgage, $210 for taxes, $75 for insurance, $150 for HOA, and about $125 for maintenance reserves. And that brings your estimated monthly cost to roughly $2,075. Now, remember that rental income? If your student's two roommates are both paying $800, you're collecting $1,600 per month. And that leaves you with only about $475 out of pocket. And that's significantly less than what you would pay for in rent in one room in most student housing options. And don't forget, your student is also living there too, essentially rent-free. Now, if you were to instead buy a 4-bedroom property instead of this 3-bedroom property, and therefore you would have 3 roommates to collect rent from in addition to your student who's living there rent-free, your numbers get even better. But in my opinion, here's where it gets even more interesting: appreciation and equity. If the property appreciates at a modest 3% per year, that initial $300,000 home could be worth $340,000 by the time your student graduates. Meanwhile, each and every mortgage payment chips away at that loan balance, which increases your equity. So after 4 years, between appreciation and principal reduction through mortgage payments, you could easily gain $60,000 or more in equity. And finally, when your student does graduate, you have options. You can either sell the property and potentially pocket a profit, or if you enjoy being a landlord and the numbers still make sense, you can continue renting it out and let it generate passive income for you. Now, Virginia Tech enrollment is very stable, and demand for off-campus housing, it's not going anywhere. So you'll have a consistent pool of tenants year after year after year. And another thing to keep in mind is your student having control over their living environment. When your student rents, you have limited control over the property's condition, safety, and quality of life. But if you own the property, you can ensure that it's well maintained, safely maintained, and suitable for focused study and healthy living. It also gives your student a chance to learn a bit about home ownership, budgeting, responsibility. These are valuable lessons that aren't always taught in the classroom, and if your kid is like me when I was a kid, may not want to learn it from the parents directly. This is a wonderful way to introduce them to that. Now let's briefly talk about taxes. There may be tax benefits too, because in many cases, the mortgage interest, property taxes, and the maintenance expenses can be deducted if the property qualifies as a rental. Now, be sure to consult a tax advisor to understand how it applies to your specific situation, but this is another way that parents can potentially save money. Of course, owning a property does come with responsibilities. There's maintenance, dealing with tenants, and managing payments. But many of these tasks can be handled by a property manager if you prefer to keep things more hands-off. And in a town like Blacksburg, there are several property management companies that specialize in student rentals. So to wrap up, let's recap some of the biggest reasons why parents should consider buying a property in Blacksburg while their child is attending Virginia Tech. 1, stable and growing housing market. There's consistent appreciation and long-term value. 2, there's strong rental demand. Thousands of students needing housing every year. 3, the ability to offset expenses. Roommates' rent can help cover a large portion of your monthly costs. 4, equity building. Your money goes towards something you own, not towards something somebody else owns. 5 is housing control and quality. Having that peace of mind knowing where your student and how your student is living. Number 6, tax advantages. Potential write-offs for mortgage interest and expenses. And number 7, post-graduation options. Either sell it for a profit or potentially keep it as a long-term rental. Investing in real estate isn't just about the numbers though. It's also about opportunity. And in a town like Blacksburg, with a top-tier university, consistent population and economy growth, and a strong sense of community, it's also about setting your student up for success, both during their time at Virginia Tech and after. If you're seriously considering this move, please reach out to me directly. My email address and phone number are on the screen, and I can help you understand the student rental market right here and also help evaluate the best possible properties for your specific needs. And please like the video, subscribe to our channel so you can continue to follow along about all things living in Blacksburg and the New River Valley. I look forward to helping you live in this area. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next video.